Hey, Ralph. Wow. Are you excited for our guest today or what?
I am. I've known her for a really long time, and she has been such an industry leader for decades here. So, really, really exciting to talk to her today.
So, folks, we have got Denise Evans with Staffmark Agency. She is going to talk about unbundling. That is a topic that we have not discussed yet here on this podcast. So, this is a really exciting conversation, and we have a lot to share. So, let's go talk to Denise Evans.
Let's do it.
Well, hello, Rafael. How are you?
I am doing great, Yvonne. How about you?
I'm doing good. I feel like it's been forever since I saw you.
It feels like a long time, although it hasn't been.
It hasn't been all that long, but a lot is happening. So it does feel like a long time. So, like we always do, what is the most fun thing you did this past weekend?
This past weekend. So, we played dominoes with a group of folks that are all over 85 years old. So you already know how the game went. Is that a 6 or a 9? Is that a 12 or a 4? I can't see. Wait a minute. I can't see it.
Bunko. I love Bunko and I miss Bunko. Awesome. Well, let's see. I went to a lot's happened. It was a restful weekend for me. If you can believe it, this is rare for me. I never cracked open my laptop
Wow.
for the entire weekend. That's rare for me.
It's you.
And then Roshana and I went to the spa. So we had a spa day. But listen, I want to get on to our guest because we haven't had this guest before. And so I'm really excited to welcome Denise Evans. Hi, Denise.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing great. So I want to have you answer the question as well. What was the most fun thing you did this past weekend?
Oh, it would have to be playing with my little grandson. So he came over for a visit and I got to see him after I got back from San Diego for a little bit yesterday. So he's 20 months old and a handful, a redheaded handful.
Oh my goodness, I bet.
Yes.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to join us today. We are really excited because the topic we're going to be discussing today, we have not talked about on this podcast yet. So before we get started, please take a moment to just introduce yourself for any guests that might not know who you are. And so tell us who you are and where you are and what it is that you do in our wonderful industry.
Awesome. So Denise Evans, and I am in Cincinnati, Ohio, basically. So I work for Staffmark Group. We're a national temp staffing company based out of Cincinnati. And I have been with them doing workers' compensation for, it will be 37 years in May. So a very, very long time. Temp staffing, I always say, once it gets in your blood, you either love it or hate it. And, I loved it. And workers' comp is the same way, right? Once it gets in your blood, you either love it or hate it, and love them both. So been here for quite some time. And I am the director of claims.
So Denise, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you again for taking time to join us. And I'm really excited about our topic today. We're going to be talking about unbundling. So let's start off having you explain what that means in the workers' compensation world.
So in workers' compensation, we all usually have an insurance carrier, TPA, and usually a lot of times our insurance carriers and our third-party administrator, when we go into contract with them, wants us to bundle our program, right? They want us to utilize the providers and the partners that they have. They also mention we get great discounts by using their partners, their providers. Unbundling is the exact opposite of that, basically. So an unbundling program, you're pretty much running your own program. You're making those decisions on the day-to-day. You're looking at your bill review. You're looking at your stewardship reports with your vendors and your providers and your service partners. And you're actually making that call on, do I want to utilize this vendor? Is this vendor the vendor I want? Am I saving money here? And looking at all of the pricing components, that's basically your unbundling. So for most employers, sometimes unbundling can be overwhelming. I mean, it's a lot, right? You've got to stay on top of Your stewardship reports you have to stay on top of. Is the savings that I'm getting the savings that I wanted? Is this, a program good for me? Is the service quality good for me? Am I receiving whatever services it is timely? Do I have a better percentage of savings on bill review? I mean, there's a lot of components that go into unbundling. And I think a lot of employers, it can be overwhelming for them sometimes. But I think if you have a good workers' compensation GRAPS and program and networking, we find we prefer unbundling. So we've unbundled for years. It's part of our contract with whoever we go into contract with. We prefer an unbundled program. Yes, I may pay a little bit more on some administration of my claims, but it's usually not that much, as opposed to like there's things within bill review that it's like 25% of savings that they're going to, you know, get back from your program. And there are companies out there that you can negotiate better with, right? You can sit down and you can build your own program. You can negotiate, you can go for flat fees. So there is a lot that benefits an employer from being unbundled, besides the fact it's your program, right? Like, I think that's the most thing that I enjoy about unbundling is that they understand our industry, our business. Like, it's not just a pass-through partnership with our TPA or with our carrier. It's that they're coming in, they're sitting down, they're talking to us. They're understanding what we need, what we want, whether it's a private investigations or, again, bill review, or I'm trying to think of some of the big ones that we have, pharmaceutical. I mean, all of that, we unbundle because DME, I mean, we want to make sure we're working with the best providers, and we're also getting the best cost with our, providers. So unbundling to us has been kind of a very big, I want to say, statement that we make early on anytime we go to an RFP, whether it's the TPA or whether it's talking with our carrier. We personally take an interest in our savings and in how our program is ran.
So let's take a couple steps back, Denise, and tell me first and foremost, so you work with a staffing agency that's a little bit different than, say, some of the other larger employers that some folks might be familiar with. But so let's talk about how that's different as in terms of how you approach your workers' compensation claims.
So for us, our workers' compensation claims are our largest cost exposure. I mean, when you think about it, we don't have ABC product to sell. ABC employee is our product. So it's very important that we stay active and proactive when it comes to safety, because imagine one of our employees gets injured, that's our product being injured. And for us, that's a person. So that's even more important to us. That is our talent. That is who we provide to our customers that do a good job for us and get things done. So for us, it's more important to make sure that we're proactive on the safety side first. I mean, the ultimate goal, I think, for any employer is not to have any workers' compensation injuries or claims or incidents, right? And then you have to become reactive when you do have one. So I think the proactive is the most important. You start out for us making sure that our customers know that safety is important, making sure our talent knows that they work for Staffmark Group. We're going to be the ones that they're going to call and report an injury to. And we're going to be the ones that they fill out all the paperwork, and we work with, them and the medical provider, making sure we get them either in states that we can direct care to, or, do at least some of my employees, to be honest, don't even have medical providers. So a lot of times they're looking for us to guidance anyway, to say, I don't know where to go. Like, where do I go? So, we try and work really hard in the beginning on our workers' compensation program, starting with step one, which is our talent and our employees, and making sure that they understand the process. And so it's a little different because our clients, again, are looking at us and saying, well, it's your employee, handle it, right? So we have a lot of great clients that partner really good with us, and we work together and we make sure everybody is taken care of. And we make sure that the client understands our expectations in the beginning, and we make sure the employee understands the expectations. Like if there is an incident or an injury at work, please loop us in right away so that we can help guide that process. So we're a little different that we're not on site at all times, right? So we're in other people's facilities and we're having to go by them calling us in or getting us involved. So we're not always right there on site. We do have a lot of great customers that we do have on site individuals. So they're just there to kind of like check people in, make sure they show up every day. But should an incident occurs, then they can go and help guide the customer and the employee.
Interesting. So let me ask you, do you find that, so oftentimes we hear that one of the biggest issues with injuries and workers' compensation, you know, between the injured worker and the employer is that communication piece, right? Between once they are injured and there has been an incident, we hear that, you know, if communication breaks down, you know, then the claim gets off on the right track. Is that better coming from a staffing agency since you guys are already sort of handling all that administrative stuff, or is it the same, or how is it?
It actually could be worse because there's a lot of times, like if let's just say the temporary employee, the talent leaves and doesn't tell anybody what happened, that happened. So the communication, we when you talk about unbundling, this is kind of funny. We love unbundling because we've worked really hard on our communication piece with our injured workers. So one of the things that we offer, the minute we know about it, and that's hopefully the customer calling us or the employee calling us, and we provide handbooks and we talk to our customers in depth about why it's important to get us involved in the beginning so those breakdowns don't happen. Nobody wants that to happen. Nobody wants to fall through the cracks. So one of the things that we do is we have an incident report, and we also advise our teams to let the individual know. So our employee, our talent knows right away. We have a system that we unbundle with that actually provides text messaging, and where you can upload, it used to be called Gain Life. It is something different now. But what we do is we provide that right away. So that way that individual can send text messages, they can send copies of their doctor's reports, they can send their off work slips. It provides immediate translation, transportation. It allows them to, a lot of our individuals, let's be honest, I think it's anybody nowadays. If my cell phone went off right now and I didn't recognize a number, am I going to pick it up? Probably not. I mean, come on, Rafael, I've got some, warranty for your car that I need to talk to you about. I mean, or are you wanting to sell your house, Rafael? How many calls of those have we gotten lately? Like, I'm interested in buying your house. So my workers are getting the same calls, right? They're getting this exact same robocop calls, and they're not picking up is the problem. You'll have a nurse case manager call them, not picking up. You're going to have the adjuster call them, they're not picking up. So communication has honestly changed I feel like when it comes to our workers' compensation world. We have to adapt and change with it. One of the things we all know that people do look at is text messaging, right? Like, let's be honest, those kids and we got a new generation of workers coming in. They would rather FaceTime you. Don't ask me why they love their FaceTime. I don't know. They love to FaceTime or text message. So we have to adapt with them, right? So our adaptation was, well, let's see we know we do it from the staffing side as far as, hey, we have a job available for you. There's a system that we utilize that has that out there. So luckily we were on the search and we found one in the workers' comp side, because all of a sudden, adjusters are complaining. I've called them 2 and 3 times. Nobody picks up. They would call back to my branch and say, your adjusters never called me. We'd look in. They've tried them 3 times. So we bridged that gap by allowing the text message. It's just an app they download. They're able to immediately go in, text message, hey, I need to talk to my adjuster. that goes straight to the adjuster on the file. And then that adjuster and that individual now are connected, and they're
Awesome.
able to ask any questions like, hey, I'm off work. Oh, I didn't know you were off work. Temp agency, sometimes we don't even find out they're off work until a week after. And then all of a sudden the employee's calling and saying, well, I'm off work now. Okay, great. Nobody let us know. So, that communication gap now is being filled in a different way. And it's really nice because we can go in and we can see it in the notes of the claim file. So we're able to, provide that immediate contact, hopefully, and we're able to bridge that gap. It's able to get them either translation quicker, which is great, transportation quicker. A lot of my people maybe are taking a bus. Well, if they've got a broken foot, how are they going to get back and forth on a bus to get to even their doctor's offices?
Sure.
So, we're trying to build those gaps, and unbundling allows us to do it through these great opportunities that we have out there. We have some really great providers that do wonderful things, and sometimes we have to think a little harder on how we can make it all work together. One of the most recent thinking a little harder is I was on WCI's work comp panel last year. And right before it, I'd gotten with our return to work provider and realized like, oh, wait, why can't we bridge that gap there that we offer them a light duty job through the text messaging app? And you know what? It happened like right before, connected those two together, those two providers together, connected the dots, and we're getting like quicker returns on, they'll get, instead of a letter in the mail or certified mail or courier delivery or come into our office and sign for it. Hey, by the way, now you get it in the text message and you can sign for it right there. So now we've just taken a lot of the middleman and a lot of the how do we get this back as quickly as possible to get someone returned to work quicker out of it.
Awesome. Good to hear. So I'm going to turn it over to Ralph and let Ralph ask some questions, but I'm really excited to dig a little more into this unbundling.
Okay.
This is so fantastic. So first, Denise, I'm a huge fan. You have been such a leader in our industry for such a long time. I mean, the entire time that I've worked in comp, and we all have, we're in that 35 to 40 year range now.
I know.
You've been a part of it. I have seen you grow, right? And learn and teach and lead. You are really such a remarkable individual in our industry. You have just earned all of our respect. And we've watched you. I mean, I saw you at WCI last year in that course that you were just teaching and talking about. The stuff that you have learned over the years, that you share with the industry, that you try to teach and mentor, second to none. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you have done and continue to do. You really make us better, isn't that what we all, at the end of the day want, right? To leave this a little better than when we found it. All right, unbundling. I mean, I'm so glad you're here to talk to us about this. Most often, folks out there think that's only for large employers who have huge premium or dollars. I'm a little guy. I have no sway, no say. I'm never going to get my TPA or my carrier to allow me to do that. What say you about that particular component of things?
Never say never. Never say never, because honestly, it works from I've talked to many small employers that said, the exact same thing to me. And I'm like, no, not really. If you just like literally sit down and put together right now a pro and a con on the programs that you have and what you like about them and what you don't like about them, then you can sit there and say, okay, if I unbundle this, what can my savings be? And you would be surprised. There's always going to be the big programs that somebody has found and it saved them $900,000. Let's just throw that out there. There was one of those that came up last year at National Council of Self-Insurers. But there's also going to be the smaller ones that, I'm sorry, if you're a smaller one and you come back and you say, all right, I've just now took away and went to a flat dollar amount for my bill review, and you have one large bill that hits your company, and that 30% of savings is gone, and you've just saved, let's just even say $10,000 to $15,000 to a small company. Imagine how great that is to go into a small company and say, you know what, I just saved us $15,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of payroll to a small business. So I always say, don't ever say never. How about say, let's look into it? I mean, it doesn't hurt to look into it. All you could do is find out it doesn't work for you, and then you go a different route. But I think it's always worth a discussion. I mean, when we're having our RFPs and we're having our discussions with our TPAs, that is always something worth putting on your RFP and just asking. Say, you know, I'm really into unbundling right now. Let's talk about the differences. Let's talk about how much more would it cost me on one hand as opposed to the other hand. So I think it's just those discussions need to happen. Now, again, we all know our TPAs don't always want that discussion, right? Let's be honest.
Yep.
I think that's a discussion that we employers always kind of have on those back rooms with ourselves, and say, the minute we start bringing it up to a large room of TPAs in the room, some people get nervous, right? I think we've seen that at National Council every year, where every time we start talking unbundling, there's been some employers that have stood up and say, well, I bring it up and it's a no bono. We're not talking about that. We're moving on, right? And I'm like, but you're the client, right? We got to remember who's the customer here. So if that's something you really want to have, I mean, I've been unbundled for 15 years. So if you really want to have that discussion, then you sit down and you have the discussion and say, I'm going to put the people that allow me to unbundle, they're going to be in my top pile, because I want to unbundle this and I want to see where I can go with this. And also, you might want to start having some of those discussions with the partners that you're looking to unbundle with. That way you already have in your head what your savings might be and where you're going before you start having those hard discussions with your TPA. So, there's always going to be well, no, wait a minute, we can get you a better deal because we're larger. We're bringing the whole TPA book of business to the table and you're only bringing yours. Right. But as we know, there's a pass-through thing that always happens here, right? So there's going to be some hidden costs that you're not going to know about. There's no doubt. There's going to be some EDI fees or something that you may not know about that you have to do. I have found that when you push really hard on those things, that kind of goes away for the employer. They don't really count that in. They're going to work, the provider that you're looking at is going to work the hardest for you, because you know what? They want your business too. They might already work with the TPA, but they're wanting your business. And employers have really started to look more for that. I mean, we all know it's a relationship industry, right? We love our relationships and workers' compensation, because you know what? When I have a problem, let's just say a pharmaceutical problem, if I don't know who my pharmaceutical contact is, like one time I had it right on Christmas Eve. I had a guy who couldn't get an important prescription he needed as he was being released from the hospital. I called the owner of my pharmaceutical company and I got it handled. If we don't have those relationships, then we're having trouble on the back end, right? We don't know who to call. The TPA, yes, we can maybe get a hold of, but sometimes your account manager don't know even who to call on the service provider side, because they're talking to, their people who are handling the service partner and the service provider, where I'm the one handling it. I'm the one talking to them. I know who I can text. I know who I can call. I mean, we unbundle our nurse case management, our pharmaceutical, our DME, our bill review, I'm trying to think, what am I forgetting? I said pharmaceutical, DME, bill review, transportation, translation, anything we can unbundle, we unbundle. And it gives me better control and a sense of, who I work with. And that goes as far as our attorneys too. I mean, it's important to us that we have that personal relationship with our attorneys as well, because our attorneys need to represent us, right, at these hearings and these court cases, and they need to know our industry. They need to know, if I need to connect them with my customer, I need to know who I can trust that's not going to overstep with my customer. I'm putting them in front of our biggest client. I want to know that my partners can represent us in the way that we needed to be represented.
Denise, is there an area that you wouldn't recommend unbundling? Because I mean, you've listed attorneys just now, pharmacy, DME, medical providers, case management, bill review, transportation, translation, and I think it makes sense. You want to work with the people that you trust the most, that are giving you the best service, that you trust and they trust you. I mean, it just makes sense. But I mean, are all services in the comp sphere, right, unbundleable, or do you think that there's some that maybe don't play as well?
And I think most of them are, like even our MSAs, we unbundle. I mean, look at that. Now, will your carrier sometimes say, well, we have to approve them first?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a big one is your surveillance. I mean, your carrier will always, because of liability issues, MSAs are the same way. Because of liability issues, your carrier may want you to run that provider by them and then give you an okay. Your attorneys, they're kind of the same way with attorneys too.
Yeah.
So, you just gotta make sure like who you're picking represents everybody's best interest. So you always want to make sure that they have the insurance and the liability insurance and all of that in place. And your carrier is going to make sure that they always have all that stuff in place too. So it's kind of like you got to work hand in hand and make sure like who you're picking and who you're utilizing. I think you would look at it this way. You don't want a surveillance company that just opened up and maybe they haven't got their insurance in place yet. And they went and they stuck a drone in the backyard of somebody that has fenced in backyard, and all of a sudden you've got a lawsuit on your hands and your carrier's upset. None of us want to be in that position, right? We don't want to infringe on something that could cost us, a lot of money on a flip side or in a court case.
Yeah.
So I think you've just got to be smart about making sure, number one, you know what your carrier wants from you. I think that's the most important thing. Knowing what your carrier wants. If they want X amount of insurance, then make sure your providers provide you that. Get a certificate of insurance from them. Make sure you have that on file because that's important too. So once you do all of that, then you're ready to go to them and say, here's their certificate of insurance. Here's who we're working with, and get them to approve it. Then your program is pretty much locked in stone.
Love it. Such good advice. Small and large, because I completely agree with you. Just about all services here, right? If we do our homework and you bring the right entity, and you said it earlier, we could end up paying a little more for that administration, right? But the savings you end up in these other services makes it all the worthwhile. Although you have to have a special individual like you to oversee the program, because it's hard to oversee a program. Yeah. Moving right.
Yeah. And you want to make sure you know your program well. One of the things I've said in conferences before and listened to people talk to, and I mentioned it earlier, is about return to work. And a lot of employers now are using the nonprofits, right? That's a big thing, especially when you have a person that you can't get back into that same position. And for me, it's doubly hard because they're temporary employees, and sometimes the customer just doesn't have like duty that we can bring them back to. And one of the things that always drives me crazy that I always have to speak up on is when I'm sitting in there, know again what your carrier will allow. Because when your carrier writes you as a customer, right, they're writing your book of business. So anytime you go outside of your book of business, you're going outside of what your carrier has agreed to.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, we do, we're agreed to a lot of manufacturing, we have truck drivers, we have everything, but we have a do not staff list. So there's a lot of things that are on our do not staff list that we're not allowed to send. And one of my biggest pet peeves, they'll talk about people in nursing homes, like they'll send, people in to read to people in nursing homes or maybe the YMCAs. And I'm like, if you're a manufacturer, you got to remember now you're putting your employees around young children. Have you done the correct and proper background checks? You're putting them in nursing homes where maybe there's an heirloom ring that a woman is wearing that could go disappearing. I mean, you're actually doing more than the scope of the business that you've talked to your carrier about that you do. So I always remind people, again, make sure when you're unbundling, you know what your carrier will allow and not allow, and that you're staying within those parameters.
Such a good point. My goodness, you're better than the lawyer. Like that's a real, I mean, you have to have lived through those examples because you're right. The carrier says, wait a minute, you're placing him outside of what I insured you for. What are you doing, right? Very, very good point. That's solid. All right.
Well, then it's something that we've heard also too, just talking about, we've had many people talking about this, but the importance of knowing your population, right? So like the people that you're serving, this is another example of why that's so important. It's just a different application in the context of what you're talking about here today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super important.
It's one big industry, but then we all tie in together. But if I wasn't able to work with my provider directly and say, hey, look, I have this do not staff list. If I was going through, my TPA, yes, I can send it to my TPA, but I want to make sure they understand you're going to be jeopardizing the one thing that keeps me in business. And that's my insurance, right? Because without insurance, we'd all be out of business. Let's talk. We're in the insurance world here. If we didn't have insurance and we didn't have our carriers, we wouldn't be able to be in the business. So you've got to make sure that they understand you cannot jeopardize that particular component due to whatever it is. So I make sure that my partners and my people that I partner with, this is our carrier, this is what their expectations are, and this is why, they're protecting us and I want to protect them as well.
So I have a question. Ralph, are you done? I don't want to encroach on your time.
No, go ahead.
So as you're talking through this, Denise, I'm wondering, so talk to me about the providers. Like how do you work with providers in an unbundled situation? Are you putting together your own network? Are you using somebody else's network? How does that all work?
I have multiple different ways. I do have a kind of one platform for some things, and which is nice about that, it has multiple providers underneath of it so that I can work with them. And then I have layers of insurance, right? So I have their platform and their insurance, and then I also have like my providers, and they've all been vetted, and we make sure that they're all the providers we want to work with. And then there's a lot that I just go direct with. So, and a lot of it, these are people that we've known in the industry for a while, or they're new into the industry. I mentioned the new, when you're looking for something new, you just have to sit down with them and let them know. I think the first thing that I look for in a new provider is them asking me about our industry. What do you see? What is some of your problems? What are some of your, I want to say, headaches that like we could alleviate from you or take away before we even start this partnership? And, my number one is I want somebody I can reach 24/7. My injuries don't happen 9 to 5. My injuries happen, in the middle of the night. I have truck drivers driving across country. I might need a nurse case manager to get to a hospital right away. I need somebody I can contact that I know is going to pick up in the middle of the night and get them there. So you really just got to have those discussions early on. And then make a list, start it. And I always say you don't have to unbundle everything right at once, right? I think that's important to point out right now. I think that's the small employers or the employers who get overwhelmed. Okay, wait a minute. If I'm going through contract and I want to unbundle, oh my gosh, I got to put all these programs into place. No, just have the option to unbundle as part of your contract. Then you can do them one at a time. It doesn't mean you have to do them all at once. You can say, okay, today I'm going to look at bill review. So, I'm going to take the next 3 months and I'm going to figure out bill review, and I'm going to make a determination of who's the best new provider for me on bill review. And then you watch that program for the next however long you're with them. I don't think you ever stop watching. You're constantly, I get monthly reports to see what our savings was. If you're not happy, I wasn't happy with the savings being in the 50s. And, now my savings reports come in almost every month at 70%. So you've got to look at 70, 75, 82 sometimes. So you have to look at and make those determinations of where you want to be. So if I'm not happy with 50, what's the number that would make me happier? How much more on the savings will make me, and then you've got to average it out. So I might have a good month that I hit that number. I might have a slower month that I don't hit it, but that's okay. Because then you're looking at it from every single month and you're making, well, this month, we had a few less bills. So it wasn't, the savings weren't as great. You have to be adaptable too. And you have to know the book of business that you're unbundling, get to know and understand. Some of it is very hard. Pharmaceutical, let's talk how hard that is, because we know who knows what the prices of drugs are every month, right?
Well, so that was the thing I was going to ask you. The other thing that came to mind as I was listening to you talk to Rafael is was there a particular headache that caused you to think about unbundling? Because you said you've been doing it for about 15 years. Was there a particular pain point that made you think, you know what, we really need to talk to our folks about unbundling? And if so, what was that?
Yeah. So for us, I think bill review was one, but I think the biggest one that we wanted to unbundle was, and I'll go back to pharmaceutical because this happened so many years ago. I found out probably about 10, 15 years ago. Gosh, it's maybe even been longer than that. I heard about the manufacturer rebates through a little birdie. And you know what? It kind of made me mad when you think about it, right? Because for years, think about the PBMs that were actually getting those rebates for everybody, every employer. And back then, years ago, when I was involved in this, everything was brand, right? There was no generic.
Yep.
So all of those rebates, and granted, for me, maybe it wouldn't have been much each month, but think about it. Take me times all the other employers and all the other people we know in here, where they were coming to us and saying, well, our costs keep rising. We're going to have to raise it to you. But then they were getting those manufacturer kickbacks on the back end. And, to me, that was the transparency that I didn't quite understand. At that point, why are they allowed to do that? Shouldn't that be something that we're told about and we know about this? And I don't know, it just seemed off. So that's when we first started. Actually, I think pharmaceutical was one of the first that we unbundled.
Okay.
So it was probably our first. And then once we did that and we started saying, okay, we can now handle this pharmaceutical. And then we started looking, okay, what else do we like to handle? Surveillance, really big. Because, if I want to call somebody and get somebody, I want somebody that's going out there tomorrow. Well, sometimes it takes me that long to reach the adjuster. Let's be honest, right? I hate to say it, but sometimes it does take that long. So now, nope, I'm just going to go straight, direct. Here it is. You bill them later and we'll talk about it after the fact. So that one was always a big one for us. DME, let's talk about the cost. Again, I think the cost is the biggest thing. I think for me on the DME side, let's look at, a back brace is a back brace is a back brace. But have you ever noticed that you go to 3 different DME companies and they all have different pricing? Why? Why is there so much difference in pricing? I had that same thing happen with the TENS unit, and I tell this story and people like look at me and go, you're kidding me. But before we went to our platform that kind of does multiple providers under one, and we look at cost and go with the lowest with the best service. I had some DME supplies, 10 unit supplies, and I believe they were like at $100 and probably $78, $79 for that 3-month supply. So right before I was switching to the platform, I went out to another company and I was like, oh, great. You know, how much are they going to be? And they're like, oh, we can get them to you for 130. Okay. Going cheaper. Hey, I'm liking it. Sure. Let's keep going. So sure enough, did that, took the 130. So the next time I was back on our platform that we do. So our platform does the bidding for us. And as we're on that platform that does the bidding for us, I get those same supplies in and I look at the bill. And again, it's a blind bidding. So I don't know on the front end who's going to get it. And I get, you know, the bid comes in and it's like $95. And I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I've now gone from like 178 to 130, 135 to like 95. What the heck? Well, that was great till I found out who the provider was. So the provider, because remember, I mentioned the blind bidding, was the same provider that just had quoted me 3 months earlier at the 135.
Oh, dear Lord.
So that's
is this when you go, Houston, we have a problem?
So, you know, sometimes you have to do a few little things like set up a platform like that I might pay a little bit extra, $5 for. But I also know that I'm also double checking all my pricing, right? Like that little offset. Like
it's amazing to me. I mean, it makes sense what you're talking about, but it's amazing to me that you're watching at that level of detail. That makes me think that, I mean, like what Rafael said, like, boy, you're really down in the weeds, granular level.
Well, sometimes you have to be, especially you got to remember for us, that affects our pricing that we get back to our customers.
Right.
So if my workers' compensation costs are higher, then that's my product, right? So then my cost back to my customers, well, if you're in the staffing world, anybody will know markups in the staffing world are lean and mean. Like it's tough. So we have to dig deep and make sure that we're saving. You know, we charge back to our branches sometimes. So we have to make sure that we're protecting every single dollar that goes in and out. And yes, do I watch it that? No, I might watch that program, like pick it up for this quarter, and then I might skip a quarter and then go back the next quarter. There's no way you can be that deep in the weeds every single time.
Oh, sure. I understand. But it makes perfect sense. Just fascinating.
Yes. I mean, Denise, we could talk to you all day long. You've got such incredible experience. I have also known you in this industry to be a conference leader. I mean, you put together amazing conferences. You put together incredible content. You bring the best speakers, the best topics, and you've been doing it now for a long while. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk to us about how'd you get started in that, and you must enjoy it, because I've seen you now do it so many years that I figure it's something that you really enjoy doing.
It is, because you know what? Employers learn from other employers, right? We're here to learn and hear about our programs. And honestly, the best thing that I think of, you know how I talk about all of the providers that are servicing all of us employers, if they're sitting there listening how we want our programs run, if I can share what I want, that's something that provider can learn and take away and put in place maybe for another employer who maybe wasn't at that conference. But I think for me, I've always been involved from the employer's side of the self-insured world. So I was part of the Ohio Self-Insurers Association for years. We ran our own conferences. So that is all employers. There is nobody but employers on that board. And we have always put together our own programs. And, you know, I think we started with listening to the employers in the room. The first thing, what do you want to hear about? I want to hear other employers talk. I want to hear what employers have to say and how they've incorporated their program into their, you know, department. I want to hear how they've done things. So I think for us, it's like when I took over national council a couple of years ago, I guess we're going to start on our third year. One of the things that I wanted to do was bring back that employer network because I think that we've all gotten so busy in our day to day and we're so busy out there. For the large employers, and I'll tell you how to benefit the small employers. For the large employers, sometimes you're too big. I can't always get to every self-insured conference, right? Could you imagine how many conferences that would be if you had to go to every self-insured conference?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Arizona, you've got Arkansas, you got Mississippi, you got Illinois, I mean, I could go on and on. Ohio, Washington, they're all out there. I can't do it. My boss would kill me. So you have to think about, but how can I stay in the know? So that's the most important piece to me is you've got to stay connected to the employer base. So I think the best thing to do is these conferences allow us to get together as employers and sit and talk. And something that I may do or say may help a smaller employer in the smaller states because the smaller states may have a rule or a law going on that we don't like, but I might not know about it because I'm not at that conference. So it's great to have those associations and those communications going back and forth. I know our goal at National Council is to create, we have a system we're working on that's going to allow that you're going to be able, if you're a member, to go in and you're going to have a bucket that you can go in and talk to employers. Or it's kind of like LinkedIn. You're going to be able to go in and say, hey, did you know Washington had this bad bill going through this month? If you have a lobbyist, please send the lobbyist to Washington to counterbalance, what they're trying to do here. So I just think that one thing that we do so well is we try and stay involved. But I think one thing that we do so bad is we let gaps in. And I think we've had a lot of employer gaps. I think sometimes we get to the conferences and we're all so busy and we're running everywhere. We're forgetting to make those connections, right? We need to have those roundtable sessions. We need to have more of employer sessions that they're sitting there and they're asking questions. They're talking about the hard topics like unbundling. They're talking about like what's happening in every state. So for me, that's always had a soft spot in my heart because I feel like I love meeting new employers. I love hearing about their programs. I love making that connection with them and saying, call me if you ever have any questions, or can I call you if I need help with something? And I think that's, I almost want to say COVID almost did away with that a little bit for us as employers, because I think the employer world started seeing that, oh, well, we don't have the money to go to this conference or that conference, and we don't have the money for this or that. And I keep reminding like anybody I talk to, I'm very lucky. My company is a big believer in learning and education and staying on top of things. My boss is a big supporter of the conferences because of the programs we've pulled back in and of the networking and of the savings when we had to go self-insured in the state of Washington that we brought in from those networks. And I think reminding employers that it's not always just there to build, it's there to build relationships, but in multiple ways. Not with just your service providers and partners, but you're also building relationships with state organizations. You're also building relationships with other employers. And you never know when you might need that network to pull in a program or to talk about unbundling or to talk about pharmaceutical or to talk about anything. So I find that for me, the conferences and being out there and outspoken about why they're so important is important to all of us.
We agree. We chatted about that in our issues, our kickoff for the season. We talked about the importance of getting to at least some conferences. And so I think we each outlined our top 5 that we thought were the best. And then, if you can't make it to that many, identify at least 2 per year that you can get to your state conference and just get out there and, communicate with your network. So we are big believers in that as well.
Yeah, and I think I was with a group of employers just recently, and a lot of them, are shying away from the bigger ones, but they're start finding those smaller regional ones, you do have that better networking. You do have that better connection, that you're not just getting lost in a big crowd. So I think that we're seeing a comeback maybe on the smaller regional side of things right now for the employer population. So I think that's a good thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's all the way around. The way things are going, not to bring heavy topics into the mix, but the way things are going in the world, I talk about this a lot because I travel a lot, but travel is not a joke these days. You have to take it seriously. It's more difficult, it's more intense. So it totally makes sense that we're seeing sort of a resurgence of the going back to the state and the more regional conferences. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to say thank you. I'm sorry.
We can't forget though, we are national and it's so hard to get
I
to.
know.
So you got to have that national connection as well. And we've already signed for next year. So I can give a little plug that everybody will want to go to this one. So we're going to be next year at the Omni Grove Park Inn in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh my goodness. One of my favorite places ever.
Yes.
That's awesome.
People will want to, overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And we are going to bring our golf outing back. We'd hope to bring it back this year, but because of the conference hotel not really having a golf course, the logistics of it, but we decided to save it, and we're going to have our golf outing at the Omni right there on their course. So nobody has to leave. You can just play on the course right there on Sunday morning. So we're really excited.
Very awesome. Well, before we wrap it, I want to ask you, Denise. We just talked about a lot. You are a busy woman. You're, managing the program that you do for Staffmark, and you're managing conferences and putting people together. What do you do for fun? How do you keep yourself energized? And when you need to, get some more energy, what do you do?
I was going to say, in the past, I did a lot of reading and, just loved to swim, walk. But now I have that 20-month-old grandson. So my fun these days are dealing with him and chasing him around and enjoying time with him. They do say you love your kids, but it's nothing like a grandchild.
Oh,
That
yeah.
brings a different kind of love into your life. So I firmly think that that's my fun these days, watching his eyes light up at the little of the things that you used to see your kids' eyes light up at.
That is so cool.
I love that.
Awesome.
I love that. I'm lucky enough to be connected with you on social media. So I've watched you with the little one. It's like, it is something special. I just love that. It brings a smile to your face every time.
Yeah, it does.
That's
They're
awesome.
wonderful. So.
That's very awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So Denise, again, thanks for making time for us today and spending time with us. This has been a really fun conversation. I think we learned some things and talked about a topic that we haven't addressed yet here on the podcast. So thank you.
Well, thank you both for having me. Love you both. Love seeing your smiling faces.
What we always like to do to wrap the program, Denise, is to say, until we see you next time, hasta luego.
Bye. Bye. See you tomorrow.
You ready for a warm-up, Rafael?
Yes,
Me,
ma'am.
me, 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 me,
Me. La la la
la la
la
la la la
la.
la. I wonder if Arden is laughing or cursing at us about now.
This may be right about the time where everybody turns it off.
Hey, Rafael, can you believe it? We are halfway through season 6.
I can't. It just feels like we just got started a couple of weeks ago, and now it's halfway through. It's amazing. Time is flying, right?
Time does seem to be flying. So, folks, thank you so much for listening with us. We are currently about to hit 55,000 downloads. We have published 151 episodes. That's a big number.
That's a big number.
And where can folks find us, Ralph?
Well, Yvonne, always, folks can find us on LinkedIn. And I know that we've got a beautiful website that you've put together that folks can come and really learn all about deconstructing comp and our latest project this year, Substack, right? With newsletter and all. I don't know how you find the time, but we are incredibly grateful for everybody who's visiting and absorbing the newsletters as well, right?
That's right. You can also find us on YouTube. We launched our YouTube channel last year, and we're playing around with that a lot more. So go find our YouTube videos and, chat with us out there. You can comment, you can send us messages. And then, as always, follow us on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it. And like us, rate us, share us with your colleagues. That is how people find us, and that's how we can expand our reach. So like Rafael said, look for us on LinkedIn, Yvonne Guibert or Rafael Gonzalez. And the podcast has its own LinkedIn page, Deconstructing Podcast. So until next time, hasta luego.
Hasta luego.